That's hilarious. Um, yeah. So thanks again for joining us, Sheryl. So yeah, we're here to talk today. You tell us a little bit again about Empowered Advantage, but tell us more about this new arm and what you plan to do with that. I think it's really exciting that you're providing all these resources. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
It's exciting, and I hope I don't regret it, but it's exciting at this point. So the Empowered Advantage was really just to give you a little background on why we called it that. Well, our last name's Powers. That was kind of the start, the impetus, but how did we work that into what was important in our heart? It was because we really want to empower employee teams with education, right? Education of their benefits, how to use resources, how to get ahead of life's curves, because 30 years of corporate America, they never did that for us. And life's crazy, right? So it's that education component that was so important about, it's knowledge is power. So then comes the whole networking stuff that you know about, that everybody knows how we're all here. And the networking podcast, working with Bliss and mid-market professionals. We have a lot of educational components for entrepreneurs. So then people would say, I don't understand, Sheryl, how do you do all this networking stuff? And then you also have this over here. So we decided to build last month kind of a rainbow bridge between the two and call it Empowered Productions, so that we house all of those educational events for entrepreneurs under the Empowered umbrella, but calling it Productions. So I hope that helps kind of make it all gel a little more. So does it?
Yeah, that does. And I've always thought that too, because, it's almost like you put your, the Empowered Advantage to the back burner sometimes, because it's like, well, Sheryl's a networker, but yeah, so it's that will help, the bridge between that two, and I know you hang out with Rob a lot. He has a huge library, all those resources for businesses. So, and my book.
And I think
awesome. Oh yeah, both. Wow. That's awesome. So that's really great. It's good to to do that. And you guys have that podcast as well.
Network Today. So if anybody wants to look it up, or I can put it in the chat, it's YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's Network Today podcast.
Network Today podcast. Is it on? It's on YouTube. Awesome. So everybody go check that out. Everybody go check that out. And if I remember, I'll put the link in the comments too.
Right.
So tell me, what was the inspiration specifically behind the writer's block? Like, can you tell us, like, what is that, and what was the inspiration for that, and what are we trying to do with it?
I think it's an awesome question, because it kind of ropes us all together. So it was the Network Today podcast filming that kind of started me taking a look at all of the authors, specifically local authors that Rob would highlight. Right. So when we talk about a networking issue and we'd say, all right, what book do you have that makes sense for this? Then he'd start throwing out these authors' names. And then I found out how many were local, like yourself, like Lauren. And it was like, wow, there are so many entrepreneurs as we begin to have these ongoing conversations who have a story in their heart, right? They've got a book in their heart, and it might be a training book. It might be a memoir book, inspirational. It might be just a factual book. So, but we don't know what to do with it. So we take it, we got it here, it's all swimming around, but then what do you do? So I got to speak with great people like Lauren, who kind of helped me begin to hash all of this out. She was an amazing help in just helping me break it down and then create content that was going to be helpful to entrepreneurs, because as she mentioned, she's done 3 books, you've done multiples. And so helping people determine, A, should they write the book? Just because you have an idea, should you? And then B, how do you write the book? And then C, how do you take it to market? That's what we felt that we really needed to address with kind of a general 30,000 foot view symposium.
Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned like different kinds of books, but a book could even just be like a workbook, right? It could be something that you're not meant to just read, but maybe even write on. It could be, I've seen people do inspirational notebooks where it has like a quote at the top, and you can just, the whole rest of the page is left up to the reader, right? So
Yeah.
that could be helpful,
Yes, I know Casey Haston has done one like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of workbook-ish, and Rich Kavanaugh has as well. So yeah, it can take many forms. And here's one of the things I'm learning. So I'm not an author. So people think, well, why are you putting on an author symposium? Because I'm not an author. Right?
Yeah.
So I just put on the event. And for those of you who don't know me, I have 30 years of radio, and doing events for clients was my secret sauce, right? Putting butts in seats is my superpower. So secret sauce, events, butts in seats, superpower. So that's kind of how all this came together. I'm the producer of this. I'm not on stage. And right, because I don't know anything about this, but it's fascinating what you learn. So here's one of the things I learned recently when I was talking to another author, and he said, oh, I can't make it. I'm so sorry. But you really should consider also hitting on this. So there's hardback books, softback books, audiobooks, certainly ebooks. But he said video books. He said video books are a thing. He said authors actually are filming themselves doing the book.
Really interesting. I don't think I've heard of that.
Yeah. So he said video books. I know. And so I guess it makes sense, because you kind of get the story maybe, or the narrative with a visual, and then you can rip the audio and also make an audiobook. Are you already making notes, thinking about your next one?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that is super awesome. And so the Writer's Block Symposium, this isn't even just like this isn't a one and done thing, right? You're also doing other symposiums that are meant to help people as well, right?
Yes. So one of the reasons I felt that you were such an invaluable resource to bring into the group, not only because you've written, so many awesome books and been through the process yourself, but you also are a problem solver. So you created problem solving solutions through frameworks to help other entrepreneurs navigate those waters, those uncharted waters for them. And Lauren had mentioned the same thing. So she said, hey, we need to create aftercare programs, because people will get to the point where they're like, okay, I went from should I write a book, to now at the end, by 4 o'clock, it's like, I've just talked to everybody and I should write the book. Now what? So yes, so we will have aftercare programs, great resources like yours to help people take it into the next level.
Yeah, that's great. I think so. Yeah, what you're talking about, and as for my program, is I'm not sure about Lauren's and what we're going to build up after this necessarily, but so I know that when I went through the publishing process, it took me longer to write the book. Took me longer to write the book than I thought. I went through more iterations than I thought I would. And I'm not even necessarily talking about the writing, because I'm a process guy. So of course, as I was writing the manuscript, it was versioned, and I never deleted any version. I would just reversion it. And I had more versions after I thought I was done than I did before, because you find out these little things, and you find out that it's not just edits. I'm not even talking about, oh, you misspelled a word here, or you should add this to it. We're talking, you need to make sure you're using the right font.
Yeah.
So one little story I had is when I was getting the book published and I kept submitting it to the printer, it kept getting kicked back because the font wasn't high quality. And I thought, how in the world is that possible? Because I'm using Word, right? So it's a font. It's a font. It's like, how's it going to be low quality? It's not like it was 0.5 font. It was normal sized. But you end up finding out that you have to submit it as a PDF. So a PDF isn't a PDF. There's so many different kinds of PDFs and ways that things can be embedded into it. And if you don't know all those things, you could be pulling your hair out. And so what I did as I was publishing my book was create just system. I documented everything and systematized everything so that I could help other entrepreneurs, with that as well. And not only just to publish, but also when you're done publishing, how do you market it? How do you get book reviews? How do you, get book sales? How do you use your book? Not even necessarily to make money, but how do you use your book to get services to then make money? So I think that's, people need to write a book. If you have a business, you've got to write a book, right?
And I think that's really important, because here's what I was talking to somebody last night at a networking event, and they said, Sheryl, I'd go to the event to support you. And I'm like, you're in the consulting business. You need to consider writing a book. And I said, I've got like 20 in my head, but I don't know that I want to actually act on them. Well, you have 20 in your head. One needs to come out.
Yeah.
And we have 8 authors who are all going to speak to that on different levels, right? So should it be a booklet? Should it be a full-on book? Should it be 10 pages? Should it be 1,200 pages? What are the varying differences for one versus the other? But to your point, everything is a marketing tool. Everything is a marketing tool. And so what I'm hoping to glean from this, honestly, I'm just putting on the Writers Symposium so I can write a book.
You're going to write one now. You're going to write one now, is that?
That's why I have to figure out what to write. But the truth is, if we want to succeed in business, especially as an entrepreneur, we need to find a lead in. And you'll hear from JJ Checky. One of the reasons I wanted him to be there is because he's not an author. He had zero interest in writing a book, but he's in a really crowded space in financial services, right? So he does financial planning with his dad, and he joined the business, and he said he walked in. He said, Dad said, okay, son, now we're working together. We're going to write a book. And son, JJ said, what? I don't know if you heard that story. And they're like, he's like, I don't know what we're going to write. I don't know how to write. And his dad was smart and said, hey, we need something that's going to set us apart. That's going to be our calling card. So they didn't publish the book to make money from the book. They did it to be their calling card, kind of a business card in book form. And it's worked so well for them. So that's why I wanted him. He's not a you, and he's not a Lee Calan, but he just has the book, right? And that's important.
It is. It's important. And I've seen a lot of business owners. They'll write a small little book, and they give them away. And that's good. It's great. I know that I've used my book in ways that I didn't even know that I would. To market, right? So I knew to have a book as a calling card, and that's kind of why I started writing my book, and it's to show my expertise. But then I ended up seeing that I could use the book for other things. Yeah. So I've used my book to help generate content for LinkedIn and Facebook ads. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like, my brain is there in my book. So now I use the book to help generate content to keep advertising what I do. And so it just keeps building on itself. And So you mentioned JJ, and you've mentioned Jay, and of course we have Lauren Midgley here on this podcast as well. Watching. Can you tell us a little bit about the authors that are speaking, and how did you pick all these authors? I know there's so many authors here in Dallas. How did you pick them? Who are they? The ones that we hadn't mentioned, and what do you hope that this collection of authors can do to help the business owners that are going to come to this symposium?
Right. We are so blessed to have this amazing myriad, this entire spectrum of authors. So that was one of the things I was looking for was, a JJ to a land, and then everything in between, so that everybody can get a perspective and make a good decision for themselves. Again, being empowered with knowledge and making a better decision for themselves. So we're not here to cram any one agenda down anybody's throat, not a single publisher or whatever, right? Make some good decisions that are for yourself. So with that said, this is broken out into 3 sessions. And the first session starts, at 10:30. It'll be an hour and 15 minutes. And that is with Glenna Hecht, and that's with Jay Mamie. 2 very strong personalities. They wrote for 2 very different reasons. And so for Glenna, she's a friend of mine, right? So everybody I knew with the exception of one. So only one did I have to reach out to and get to know. But Glenna I've known for a long time. We've worked together. She's an awesome presenter. But she took her head knowledge from HR and wanted to put it into a book form. So that was the one. But she's working on her second book, which is totally different. It is not business at all, which is why I thought this is really important to hear from somebody who's making that pivot into something that was really heartfelt for her. And it's hard for her to write the book because it is such a personal memoir for her. Yeah. Then the other end, he just cranks out books. I think he's on his 12th. Maybe? Yeah. So he cranks them out, and it's for marketing purposes. so that he has, it gives you street cred. So if any of you want to speak, or you say you're a speaker, if you don't have a book, this is what I've been told. And I think Lauren was one of the ones who said, Cheryl, I mean, consider writing a book, because it is your, hey, on my bio, now you can say published author, Amazon #1 bestseller, whatever. So that's really, really important. And so that's part of why Jay did it, right? Marketing, getting the speaking engagements. At 11:45, we're going to move into a quick segment with Robert Hunt. So if anybody doesn't know him, he wrote the book Nobody Cares. It's a great book. It is a great book. And he was also one of the instigators who helped me build framework for this. Framework. Oh. So I know, it's the word of the day. And he's going to do the big book dream sheet. So everybody will in real time get to write out their book dream. And then, and this might be scary for some, and then post it on the wall. So during lunch, everybody will circulate and be able to make comments, provide resources, support, and we want this all to be positive. But that will help to begin the process of getting that headspace down into the writing space.
Wow.
So then we move into session number 2, and that's going to be with, that's Lauren, Lee Colan, and JJ Checky. So JJ 1 book, Lauren 3 books, and Lee 16. Yeah. And he was the one I didn't know. So what I did was to find like some of the missing pieces. And I knew some great people, but I said, hey, Rob, I need a picture of your local author library. And so I looked through it and I'm like, ooh, I don't know this guy. So I reached out on LinkedIn. Hey, Lee, I don't know you. You don't know me, but Rob sings your praises. This is what I'm doing. And here's what he replied. Cheryl, I'm in. Whatever you're doing for entrepreneurs, I'm in. Now,
awesome.
I know.
Wow.
So being ignorant.
Yeah.
Can really
I haven't met him either. I'm excited to get to meet him.
Yes, because people have told me, Cheryl, how did you get Lee? And I'm like, because I didn't know I couldn't, I guess. But he has been such a huge champion, and Lauren can speak to that. Lauren, if you have any like adjectives that you can put in there from your collaboration time with Lee and JJ, that would be awesome. And I was so impressed with him. And he said, truly, his best book was a little booklet that they stapled. That's been his best book.
Really?
So it wasn't highly published. It wasn't laminated. He said that's his best book. Little and easy to read and stapled. So yes. And so then we end with you and Robert in session number 3, and that's how to take it to market. And that's okay. So now we've gone to the place of how do we write the book with Lauren and JJ and Lee, and then into the now how do we get it to market? Budgeting. Should we determine that we want to make money with it or not? I mean, that's, I know a lot of people get very disappointed.
They do. Yeah. I remember when I was writing, I was talking to somebody, and he says, I wrote a book. He co-authored it with somebody, and he goes, you know how many copies we sold? Not one. Not one. And it was disheartening to hear that, but you have to have a plan for it. It's just like a business. You create a business plan, and how are you going to market your business? Where are you going to take your business? You can't just write a book and then finish. You publish it and you think you're done. You can't put a book on the shelf and then you think that it's there. People are going to buy it, right? It's just like a business. So yeah, that's very important stuff to know. Yeah,
and look at Lauren's comment. You have to have a following. You have to have a following, and then it will help you build the following. So it's kind of this self-perpetuating wheel that begins to take place. And when people Google you before they do business with you or have a one-to-one or whatever, what will come up on that search is, George Mayfield, 5 stars. And you're like, wow, George is a 5-star guy. Oh my gosh, I got to know this George. Maybe you can buy me lunch. And Lauren says, even if it is small at first, and that's true. So if you want to grow, it looks like writing a book is the way to go.
Yeah, I believe it. It's and one of the things that you need is what they call it an ARC, right? Advanced reader copies. So if you are writing a book, and you've seen books that when you open up the first page and you've got quotes in it and it's already printed, like how do these people put quotes in the book after it was printed, or maybe it's a reprint. Those are usually advanced reader copies. So if people are wanting to write a book, or they're in the process, or even if you've already written a book, you can still come to this and relaunch it.
Yeah.
You know, you can make another version, but you know, other people in the room there that are kind of going to be your support group. You know, as we go on with this, you know, those people could be the people who read your copy, give you feedback, give you quotes to print in the book, to make it seem like, you know, really awesome, even on launch day, that you've had so many readers already.
Yeah.
It's really good to have this community. So this is you're not just getting knowledge, but you're also getting a community
Yeah.
with this.
That's exactly right. You know, there are two other people that are part of this that I think it's important for, you know, when you're listening and you're thinking, yeah, I'm still on the fence as to whether I write a book or not. Nick Willette Barrett. It's Nick and then Quillette. She wants the whole name. And she is one dynamite gal. She is fabulous. And she's written 2 books of her own. She's a resume writer, but she's co-authored 3 more, which is really important to understand how you can co-author so you're not just on your own. And she did it as a leave behind for the people she's writing resumes for. So when she does a resume clinic, then they get the one workbook and then they can go in and buy the other one. So it's really smart marketing the way she's done that. I think that's really good. Larry Roberts is the other one. And so I'm just going to throw that name and I'll leave this out here, but you can look him up, Red Hat Productions. And he does a podcast, and he's one of the ones who said video books a thing. So
yeah, that's really good to know. And you bring up you know, co-authoring books, but you know, collaboration books are another thing too. So if writing a book and publishing a book and everything all on your own, it seems like a daunting thing. You can also get in a collaboration book. That's actually what the Scary Stories book is that I had. But there's others out there like it too, where you write you know, just a chapter. And then somebody else who has a business that's similar to yours, or at least, you know, has the same theme, you know, you all write a different chapter in this book and put it together, and then, you know, publish it together as a team. So it doesn't even have to be that you, yeah.
What are some of the benefits of that in regards to your Amazon ranking?
In regards to Amazon ranking, well, I'm not sure that there's a lot of benefit as far as Amazon ranking, but it's more, you know, there's a shared cost in publishing a book, but it's also in, you know, the shared efforts in marketing the book. So if you get 10 people together and you write, you know, a 10 chapter book, and, you know, maybe it's a book about HR and you've got 10 different people writing about HR, or, you know, maybe it's a finance book, or maybe it's, you know, has another theme to it. If you all market the book and you're all giving the book out, you're all selling the book, you're all speaking on stages and talking about the book, then it's not only elevating yourself, but it's also elevating those other authors. And so, you know, when we think about writing a book, it's really more about adding to yourself as a business owner and what you offer people, more than it is making money to sell books.
Well, I don't know if you know Claire Billingsley. She was, golly, I've known her for maybe 5 years. And when she just launched the first book and it was a collaboration, she said she did it because having multiple authors can help elevate you on Amazon. And maybe it's just because it's the force of 10 people all pushing people to Amazon to like and to comment on it. So I think
it is that. And it's also if you are writing with somebody who is already an author and already has books on there, you kind of go right on the coattails of their book.
Yeah.
Also a good reason why you need to get a good person to write the book forward, you know?
Yes. Yeah, that's another thing. And I'm hoping that this symposium can help provide some of those resources so that, you know 5 people who you could send those people to when they need those things, and, times all the others. So I'm hoping that that's another thing, that this is just kind of a resource library of, book resources. So
yeah, it's a like we said, it's a community, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say if you're completely new to writing a book, what would you say are some key things that people are going to be able to take away from this symposium?
If you're brand new, I think it's which direction, you know, the session one, that is which direction should you take your book, right? So I think a lot of people think story in your heart, you got to write this, you know, story about your life or whatever. But the truth is it could be whatever lane of knowledge you have, and that can take multiple forms. So I think I'm hoping, this is our goal, is to help people begin to take this kind of swimming around stuff, like the guy who had 20 books in his head, and then begin to pick 2 or 3 of those and say, hey, this is doable, right? This is, I can get this down into print. I can make this manageable. So, and then to be able to then draft out how to write that book through Lauren and her team, and then how to get it to market from your aspect. So that's really what the goal is. You know, for me, I always thought that, I don't know about you, but I don't read big things. I used to, but I don't anymore. Like we all have ADD. And so for me, I've always had this concept of just writing little booklets, little, like, you know, the Powers set of booklets. And so they're all like, you know, little fable tales or whatever. And then by the end of my life, hopefully I've gotten through 10 or 12 or 20 or whatever. And then I have, you know, the Cheryl's memoirs all in my little fable book, right? And that's the big novel, but it's in little digestible form, like Reader's Digest type things. So that was just one of the things. I don't really have a topic. I just thought it would be fun. And look at her. What's he saying? I wrote the outline in 6 chapters of my book as you were speaking.
Wow. Wow. He's a go-getter.
Yes, he is. Kim's asking a good question too. Will the session be recorded? I'd love to learn more. We are working on that, Kim. So I've had several people who are out on vacation or whatever. And so we're working on a recorded version that we can roll out. We want it to be high enough quality so that you can actually get something from it. And it doesn't look like a 4-hour Zoom call.
Right.
Yeah, so we are working on that. We will let you know. We'll keep you posted on that. But now, what Herb said, George, tell me again how long for your first book it took you start to finish.
It took me. All right, so the guy who wrote the foreword of my frameworks book, his name is Craig Duswalt. I was at a Rockstar speaking event that he had here in Frisco, and I knew that I needed to write a book. And I mean, I knew, like, since I was a kid, I've been told that I need to write. And that was more like stories. But you know, whenever I started my business, and then you just hear, you know, the same things that we've been talking about here. You need to write a book, right? If you have a business, especially if you're a consultant, you need to write a book. And so I knew that I needed to. I didn't really know what it was going to be about and how it was going to be different, because that's the thing, you know, you don't want to write just another book that's the same book, and it's like, why would somebody read yours if it's, you know? So how was it different? And I was at his event, and so I can say that that was October of 2022, and then I had it officially published in July the next year. I was finished writing the book in about January. So it took about the same length of time to publish the book that it did to write.
Wow. But that's I think that's a pretty fast turnaround.
I went to his event, and I was like, because that was one of his sessions, is you need to write a book. And it's your systems book. And I was like, oh, just write a book about, you know, well, why is my company different? Why is Frameworks Consortium different? Okay. So I'm just going to write a book about that. So each chapter is kind of about a different aspect of how we help businesses and what we do and what other businesses should be able to do. So it's kind of like a DIY for Frameworks Consortium. So I came home on fire, and I have a whiteboard in my dining room. And so I came in and I talked to my wife. I said, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write my book. I'm going to do it now. And she's like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? She was freaking out. And so I went over to the whiteboard and I erased everything. And I was like, chapter 1 is this, chapter 2 is this, chapter 3 is this, chapter 4 is this. And that's how it got started. And you know, it's like Herb said here, you know, he wrote, the outline for his book, 6 chapters already. Like once you figure out what you're writing, it kind of writes itself. And that's what really got me excited. I was like, it's writing itself.
Yeah.
All I have to do now is fill in the blanks. And so yeah, it was I was on fire about it. It was really good.
That's a great story. It would really be a good book to have the story behind the stories for all our little authors, right?
Yeah.
Like we'd have a booklet and everybody would write how they got that done.
Well, we could write a book about the Writers Block Symposium.
Why not? Why not? Now, I know Lauren was telling me that she actually had an accountability partner that was kind of like pivotal to me when I'm like, oh, please, please, please help people understand the value of that. Because not everybody gets on fire, right? You're on fire for a minute and then somebody, puts your flames out and you're like, oh no, but I've already committed to this book. And so she was saying that she had an accountability partner and it was a set time. And I think she said every week that they would go have, you sit down and you write. And I think there's real value to that, but only if you need it, right?
Yeah.
Some people need that, some people don't. I know Tom Bronson told me when I asked him about his book, he said, I wrote it in about an hour and a half, like the whole thing. Just, I don't know if that impresses me or if I'm appalled. Should I really buy it now? If it was just over a bowl of Wheaties? I don't know, but I know it was funny. But everybody has, a different journey, and you have to determine what your threshold for sitting down and getting it done is, and find people to help you get that done. I have a question for you too about editing. This is another thing that comes up a lot. So, you said you edited the edit of the edit of the edit.
Yes.
Did you ever hire an outside editor?
No. I had the advanced reader copy team, and that's what I used. I had, I think there were about 10 people. I'll have to go back and look exactly. But I had that many people that were reading the book, and I'm pretty good at writing already, so there wasn't a lot of spelling errors and things like that. Of course, there's tools out there that people can use, because you don't want to give your manuscript to your advanced reader team, and it's just like full of errors. Like they're going to get frustrated and they're not even going to read the actual stuff because they're looking at what's misspelled. So definitely use some tools. I know since I wrote that book, I've invested in some tools that are like Grammarly on steroids that tell you, how if you're overusing words and things like that. The tool is actually called autocritique. This is autocrit, and it's a really helpful tool to use. But there's writers, there's people out there too.
Okay, and ghostwriters.
Yeah, there's those.
Because that's another thing. They have it in their head. I had a gentleman say, oh my gosh, like he's on multiple businesses, concrete, construction, whatever. He says, I've got so many books in my head, but I am not a writer. He even misspelled his text back to me about he's not a writer. Like,
it's okay.
Yes.
I think as long as the idea is yours, and it's getting put into written form, like I don't think there's a problem using a ghostwriter. There's no shame in it. It's not like it's a lesser book because somebody else did the actual writing. The Scary Stories book, that was a collaboration book. There was 9 other authors in this book that are writing. It's a concept. It's we take a business case and turn it into a scary story, like an actual horror story. And so we're some people, like, even if it was just a business case, they're like, I'm not a writer. And I was like, that's fine. We're going to talk about your business case, and we're going to talk about, how we're going to turn that into a scary story. And then we had a ghostwriter write most of those chapters. So there's nothing wrong with that. And it also helps a lot with consistency. And, we're all good at what we do. That's why we started a business. And if it was writing, we would have started a writing business.
Know your lane, right?
Yeah, know your lane. Yeah.
And it's kind of like you're the CEO of your own book, right? So you hire people out to do a book cover. Like that's probably another thing. So if you have it in your head, You might be smart about that particular subject, but maybe you have zero knowledge or gifting for graphics. So you hire that out as well?
Yes, actually, it was my VA is the one who put that together. She does so much for me, but that was one of the things she designed that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is super cool.
So,
Well, you're inspiring me, George.
great. Well, you already said you have your accountability now of all of our listeners because you said you're going to write a book and it's on film now.
Oh, that's good. Well,
So what other benefits are people going to get? Let's just getting back into like the Writer Symposium event. The people that come to this, what other benefits are they going to get out of that besides just how do I write a book?
So we have a swag bag. That would be one thing. And in the swag bag is actually going to be a folder with documents, worksheets, and be able to connect with all the authors. Truly, if I were on the outside and I were going to pay money to be here, just meeting the authors would be enough. Because if follow the leader, if you want to do something, follow those who've done and those who've done it well and those who continue to do it, right? So that would be worth every penny. But you get this. Lee Mann has a book for everybody. He said he wants to supply one in there. So that's super cool, along with your folder. Also, lunch is included. All of your coffee, all of your snacks, all of your tea. And then we have an after party, of course, because it's a Cheryl production. So we have an after party.
I was going to say, I would say that in itself makes it worth it.
Yes, because we've got we're 9 authors now with Larry included in the mix. And then we've got another, I think 6 authors who are going to be there as well, who are local authors that are near and dear to our heart, that are going to be able to talk with the people who attend about their experience.
That's awesome.
And all the books will be for sale for sure. But meeting people and learning their journey, man, that's elevation.
Yeah. And to what you said, what I like to say is be in the room.
Yeah.
Right? You be in the room. That's people that have made it happen, people that are trying to make it happen, people that have that momentum. Even if you're still thinking, you're listening to this, I don't know why you'd still be listening to this and you're not thinking you're going to write a book. But if you're still listening to this and you're like, I don't need to write a book, just be in the room with people that are like have that momentum and that push, and it's really encouraging.
It is.
I'm glad you're putting this on.
This is so good. Thank you for having me on here. Can I ask one question? If everybody could go to their chat and put in there, what would be the one thing that you would want to get out of an author symposium? That's what I want to know. What would be the one thing that you say, hey, this is I haven't done a book, or it didn't go well. I did a book and it didn't go well. Or I kind of started one and I never really finished it. And if I went to the symposium, this is what I would want to get out of it. I would really like to see that. So
yeah,
I know y'all are typing away. I know so I'd love to see that in the chat. And even for Lauren, what would be book number 4 for you? Oh, she's probably already working on it. So Lauren says, learn tips, tricks from others you may for my next book. Okay, cool. So she wants to learn from others. We're never totally the expert, are we? So, all right, y'all can keep putting in the chat. We'll take a look at it later. Here's her authors, reviews, and learn from others. I love that. You know what's also going to be neat is we do have some ghostwriters who are actually going to be attending.
Oh, awesome.
Yes. Dana, options to write a book the most time efficiently and best impact. I love that. And
good.
Then a map. Hey, Ben's a man of few words. Everybody else's book will be like this thick. Ben's will be like, it'll be the little red book, right? The little red.
That's awesome.
I know.
Yeah, you're actually talking about, with he's a marketer, and so he has clients that are in the like home industries, like pest control and stuff like that. And he's talking about helping them to write books. So it's great.
That's awesome. So yeah, and and that's another great point. So you may not be the one to write a book. Like, for instance, my mom's written 5. She's only published 1, and the 3 of the 5 are completely done. One's been published, and I think the other 2 were in process. But I think she started giving up. And so I wanted to get some inspiration for her to then say, hey, Mom, these are some things that we can do to finish that out. Because she's 85. I mean, I really want those books, right? I want those books done. So it might be that you learn to tell others and encourage them.
Absolutely. And Kim says resources after she has a draft.
Yeah, of where to go once I have the draft. Okay, so that's where you come in, George, and hopefully some of our aftercare items we will supply that support. It's not a one and done. It's not a, hey, bye-bye.
So when is this symposium?
Oh, we skipped over that, didn't we? So
yeah, we did.
It is 6/21. That is a Friday. Doors open at 10 a.m. We kick off at 10:30, and we end at 3, which is when the after party begins. So for people who have to leave, I just let them know that. But I really hope they don't. We're going to lock the doors, actually. But so that'll be fun. Where is it going to be? I'm actually here right now. I should have taken some pictures, but meeting place. So if you want to look it up, it's meetingplace-dfw.com. Meeting place. It's not the meetingplace-dfw.com. You'll see everything there. And Rob's done a great job. We can fit 40. I might be able to get some extra chairs in there, but it's limited. And I think we're over half full. So, and we're 2 weeks out. So I know. So I'm excited.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Butts and seats.
This is going to be great. Well, thanks again for joining us, Sheryl. We're going to switch back over into networking mode. And again, thank you for being a guest on the show.